He's known as Africa's boldest leader, facing coups, foreign pressure, and history itself. But no one expected this. In a powerful and emotional moment, Captain Ibrahim Traoré revealed his wife and 4 children to the world for the first time. The reaction? Total silence. Then a wave of emotion that shook the room and the internet. Discover the touching story of Captain Ibrahim Traoré and his wife. In this video, you will uncover the family of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, his wife, and their 4 children. What you're about to hear will truly shock you. This is the very beginning of a story that reveals who really stands behind Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Many of you have been asking, who is the woman behind the captain? Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and let's get started. Captain Ibrahim Traoré has a beautiful family, 5 children in total. But this is not an ordinary family. This is an educated family, a well-mannered family, a clean and respectful family. Here is how Captain Ibrahim Traoré met his wife and how they eventually had their 5 children one by name and story. It all began when Captain Ibrahim Traoré was still a young student sitting on school benches with dreams in his eyes and a storm in his life. He met her during those difficult days, a time when he had almost nothing. Life was hard and even his own family was struggling to survive. But fate had written something else for him. That's when he met Ajara. Ajara was not like the others. She wasn't chasing after luxury or superficial success. She was grounded, warm-hearted, and deeply kind. When she met Ibrahim, he had nothing to offer but his dreams and integrity. And yet, she chose to stand by his side. She worked tirelessly, waking up early in the morning to go to the market. At the time, she was a street vendor at the Ocean Market. She sold vegetables, fruits, and small items to support herself and, most importantly, to support the young Ibrahim, who was battling through military school and endless hardship. He didn't even have enough to buy decent clothes or proper food. But Ajara was there every step of the way. She believed in him. While others mocked or doubted him, she told him, "You were born for something greater." Her faith in him became the fuel he needed. Even on the darkest days when he felt like giving up, she reminded him of his purpose. "Ibrahim," she would say, "don't give up. One day, the world will hear your name." They didn't have a fancy wedding, nor did they enjoy the comfort many couples dream of. Their union was one of sacrifice, patience, and struggle. When Ibrahim finally joined the army, Ajara continued to be the pillar of their life. She raised their children with values of honesty, discipline, and courage, values that mirrored the man she had married. Their first child was born when Ibrahim was on a distant mission. Ajara gave birth alone with her mother by her side. She named the boy Ismail in honor of Ibrahim's late father. The second child, a girl named Aminata, came during a period of national unrest. Ibrahim barely made it back in time to witness her birth. The third, a boy named Suleiman, was born in the middle of a thunderstorm, and they always joked that he was born with lightning in his soul. The fourth, Fardi, was a quiet child, always close to her mother. And the last one, the baby. Of the family, they named Ibrahim Jr., a sign of legacy and hope. Their home was simple, no marble floors, no shiny chandeliers, but it was filled with warmth, laughter, and mutual respect. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, even after becoming one of the most talked about figures in the country, never stopped coming home to his family like a humble father and husband. He helped the children with their studies, played with them in the courtyard, and kissed his wife on the forehead every evening. Many have wondered what is the secret behind Captain Traoré's strength, his vision, and his unwavering courage. The answer is simple. Ajara, she is the invisible force behind the captain. She stood by him when he had nothing and continues to support him now that he leads a nation. Her silence is powerful, her sacrifice is immeasurable. While the world watches him on television and follows his speeches, few know the real source of his inspiration. The woman who once sold fruits in the market so that he could eat, study, and survive. Ajara never asked for recognition. But today in this video, we recognize her because behind every great man is often a woman who believed in him before anyone else did. So the next time you speak of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, remember Ajara. Remember the sacrifices they made, the love that bound them together and the family they built, not with riches but with loyalty, faith, and enduring love. Before he became the leader, before the uniform and the headlines, there was a man named Ibrahim Traoré, and there was a woman named Ajara. At a time when life was uncertain, and his future merely a dream, Captain Ibrahim Traoré had to make a painful decision. Leave Ajara behind in the village to pursue his training to become a soldier. It was not easy. He knew that the road ahead would be long, filled with hardship, distance, and temptation. But even harder was the thought of leaving behind the woman who had already stood by him through the worst. So he made her a promise. "Wait for me. No matter how long it takes, I will return to you." And Ajara did. While he went to the military camp to begin a grueling transformation physically, mentally, emotionally, she remained in the village waiting patiently. She could have chosen otherwise. Many did not believe she would stay loyal. Some even tried to court her. Others whispered, "He'll never come back. Move on." But she ignored them all. Her heart was already given, and she had no intention of giving it to another. Her loyalty wasn't passive. She was vigilant, cautious, and wise. She distanced herself from the men who tried to approach her. She never opened the door to temptation. Instead, she spent her days working, supporting her family, and praying for Ibrahim's safe return. But it wasn't easy. There were nights she cried alone, wondering if he was still alive. There were days when letters never came and silence felt like abandonment. The fear of the unknown was real, the loneliness unbearable. Yet she endured. Ibrahim, on the other hand, was facing his own trials. The military camp was harsh. The rules were strict, the training brutal. Many gave up, but not him. He held on tightly to the thought of Ajara waiting for him, the image of her standing in the sunlit fields of their village, smiling with eyes full of faith. That image became his strength. He pushed himself harder than the others. He was always first. First in drills, first in exams, first in discipline. His instructors noticed. "Who is this young man?" they often asked. "Why does he fight like he's chasing something bigger than glory?" They didn't know. He wasn't chasing glory. He was chasing a future, a family. He wanted to become worthy of Ajara's sacrifice. After completing his training, Ibrahim was sent on several missions. Despite the danger, he excelled. His leadership was natural, his courage undeniable. He followed every order with precision and gave his all. His superiors noticed, and he began to rise. Not yet a captain, but already marked for greatness. Wherever he went, they put him first. And not because he demanded it, but because he earned it. Years passed, and when the dust settled, when the uniforms were no longer stained with sweat and dirt, he came home, not as a rich man, not as a famous soldier, but as a man who kept his promise. He returned to Ajara. Their reunion was quiet, filled with tears, laughter, and unspoken emotion. She hadn't changed, still strong, still beautiful, still his. And he had changed, stronger in body, wiser in spirit, and full of dreams ready to be lived. They decided not to wait any longer. The wedding was not grand. There were no television cameras, no expensive decorations, no fireworks. It was a simple ceremony attended by close family and friends. But what it lacked in extravagance, it overflowed in love and gratitude. Ajara's family was overjoyed. They had seen Ibrahim grow, fall, rise, and return. They respected him not just because he became a soldier, but because he was a man of his word, a man who never abandoned their daughter, even when he had nothing to give. And so they welcomed him like a son. At the time of their wedding, he was still not yet captain, but even then, people around him felt his presence. There was something special about Ibrahim Traoré, something noble, calm, and commanding. You didn't need to see his rank to know he was born to lead. Their wedding night wasn't spent in luxury, but it was spent in peace under a quiet sky in a small home filled with hope. They sat together and talked for hours about the future, their dreams, and the family they would build. And when the stars rose above their village, it was clear something great had just begun. They had no idea yet that history was quietly watching them. That one day people around the world would ask, who is the woman behind Captain Ibrahim Traoré, and that the answer would be simple, powerful, and beautiful. Ara, the one who waited, the one who believed, the one who stayed. After years of building a simple but peaceful life together, Captain Ibrahim Traoré and Ajara felt the time had come to take the next step. They wanted to have their first child, but destiny had one more challenge waiting for them. It didn't happen easily. What many couples celebrate quickly and effortlessly, Ibrahim and Ajara had to fight for with tears, with patience, and with unwavering faith. From the beginning, it was clear something was wrong. Ajara's body was struggling, month after month, passed and nothing changed. The silence of an empty cradle echoed louder with each passing season. Still, they didn't give up. The pain was real, both physical and emotional. Ajara, usually so strong and graceful, began to weaken. She cried, alone at night, afraid her body would never carry a child. Ibrahim noticed everything. He never blamed her. Instead, he held her hand and whispered prayers into the silence. Because Ibrahim Traoré was not just a soldier. He was a man of deep faith, a man who believed that everything happens at the right time according to God's plan. A devout Muslim, Ibrahim prayed 5 times a day without fail. No matter where he was on mission in the village under the stars, his prayer mat was always near. Ajara too shared this path. She was also Muslim, and together they walked the same spiritual road side by side. Their faith was their anchor, their compass, and their greatest hope. When modern medicine wasn't enough, they turned to prayer. They visited doctors, yes, but they also visited mosques. They fasted. They gave charity. They asked for blessings from elders. They recited verses deep into the night, hoping their voices would reach the heavens. And then one day it happened. The tests came back different. The doctor looked up and smiled. "Congratulations," he said softly. "You're going to be parents." Tears flowed freely that day. For once, they were tears of joy. But the journey was not over. The pregnancy itself would prove to be another mountain to climb. Ajara's body had suffered during the years of struggle. Now that she was finally carrying life, the process was fragile. She was constantly sick. Her blood pressure dropped. She grew tired easily. Some days she couldn't even leave the bed. The fear of losing the baby haunted them both. Ibrahim stood by her through it all. He was no longer the poor young man he once was. But in his heart, nothing had changed. He still washed the dishes when she couldn't move. He still prepared meals and made sure she took her vitamins. And as always, he prayed. The doctors warned them. The birth would not be easy. And they were right. The 9th month came slowly. Each week felt like a year, and when labor began, the tension was unbearable. Ajara was too weak to push. The doctors did everything they could. Time was running out. The air in the hospital room felt heavy with fear. But then something shifted. It was as if the heavens opened and gave her strength. With a final breath, a final prayer whispered on her lips. Ajara brought their daughter into the world, a baby girl, beautiful, radiant, a perfect mixture of mother and father. She had her mother's soft cheeks and her father's intense eyes. Her cry was strong, almost defiant, as if she already knew she had fought to be born. They named her Kematu. Her name meant more than just identity. It was a symbol, a reminder of every tear, every prayer, every night of waiting. She was living proof that faith and love can overcome anything. Holding her in his arms for the first time, Ibrahim Traoré was speechless. The man who had given speeches in the army, who had led soldiers through dangerous missions, who had stood tall in moments of fear, now stood humbled by the tiny life before him. His wife, still weak but smiling, whispered from the hospital bed, "This is our miracle." He nodded slowly. "She is everything we prayed for." From that day forward, Ibrahim never missed a single moment in his daughter's life. He sang to her before bed. He carried her in his arms as he prayed, He told her stories of bravery, of faith, and of love. And every time he looked into her eyes, he remembered the struggle, the pain, the fight, but most of all, the victory. The quiet, powerful victory of Kimbatu, the daughter who arrived not in comfort but in courage. Years passed and life began to take a different shape for Captain Ibrahim Traoré and Ajara. The little family, once marked by hardship and prayer, now stood on firmer ground. Captain Traoré had grown in his military career. Missions after missions, success after success. He was no longer the struggling soldier trying to find his place. He had earned the respect of his peers and superiors alike. Each mission brought experience. Each mission brought security. And slowly he began to save. Their humble home grew more comfortable, their meals more plentiful, and their daughter Kimbatu brought laughter and innocence into every room she entered. One evening, sitting under the moonlight after returning from yet another mission, Ibrahim looked at Ajara and gently said, "I think it's time." She smiled softly, already knowing what he meant. It was time to welcome another child into their lives. Unlike the first time, they didn't have to wait long. This second pregnancy came easily, without the months of fear, without the painful hospital visits. It was as if the heavens had opened again, granting them a quiet blessing. The joy in their household was immediate. Kibatu, now old enough to understand, danced around the house shouting, "I'm going to be a big sister." But while the beginning came peacefully, the journey was not without its trials. As the months passed, Ajara's body began to suffer in silence. This time, it wasn't about medical complications or infertility. It was about endurance. Her body grew heavier, weaker. The pregnancy drained her energy. She often woke up with nausea that wouldn't stop. She lost her appetite. Food, even her favorites, made her sick. Some days, even the smell of spices in the kitchen brought her to tears. Ibrahim was worried. The doctors were too. "Don't stay still," they advised. "She needs movement, gentle exercise, fresh air." But how could she move when every step felt like climbing a mountain? Still, she tried. She walked when she could. She breathed deeply, whispered prayers between gasps of discomfort. She kept her smile in front of her daughter. She tried to cook when the nausea wasn't unbearable. She never wanted her family to feel her pain. But Ibrahim saw it all. Every WS, every night of restless sleep, every time she forced a spoonful of food down just for the sake of the child she carried. Pregnancy, people say, is beautiful. But for Ajara, it was a battlefield, one she fought silently with a strength that few could see. And finally, after months of quiet suffering, the day came. It was early morning. The air outside was calm. Inside the hospital room, Ibrahim stood holding his wife's hand. He knew the signs. This time he knew the process. But still his heart beat fast. Every father knows that even the second time feels like the first. The labor was long, but there were no unexpected emergencies this time. No panicked doctors, no fear of losing strength. It was hard, yes, but it was manageable. And then just like that, a cry filled the room. A cry of a boy, strong, loud, confident, a new voice in the Traoré family. They named him Sheriff. Daitoi name was chosen long before his birth. A name full of dignity, grace, and responsibility. A name to honor strength and serenity. A name worthy of the child they had waited for. Kibatu rushed to meet her little brother the very next day. Her eyes sparkled as she looked at him. "He's small," she giggled, "but he's strong like Papa." Ibrahim couldn't stop smiling. For the second time in his life, he felt the overwhelming, humbling weight of becoming a father again. He remembered his early days, alone, broke, training hard with a single dream. And now he was watching his wife hold their son, their daughter kissing his cheeks. And for a moment the world stood still. He whispered to himself, "Thank you, God. Not just for Sheriff, not just for the health of his wife, but for the journey, the long, winding road that led them here." For Ibrahim Traoré, being a father wasn't a role, it was a mission. And now that mission had two names, Kimbatu and Sheriff. Time moved forward again, as it always does. The days turned into years, and the Traoré family, once made of two souls struggling, together had grown into a vibrant home filled with love, laughter, and purpose. Captain Ibrahim Traoré had continued his work, committed as ever to his duties, his country, and his family. Ajara, ever patient, ever graceful, stood as the heart of the home, a quiet strength behind every success, every meal, every prayer. And then with soft whispers and hopeful smiles came the idea of a third child. It was not something they had planned precisely. It felt more like a blessing quietly walking toward them, and once again it came as a girl, a third child, a daughter. This pregnancy was different from the others. It was calm. There were no panic-filled hospital visits, no complicated treatments, no dark clouds of fear. The path felt smooth, and Ajara carried her pregnancy with quiet dignity. Her body responded well, and her spirit was lighter. Perhaps it was because she was already a mother twice over. Perhaps it was because she had learned through pain how to survive the journey. Or perhaps, just perhaps, this child was simply meant to come without resistance. Still, the final chapter of this journey, the labor, was not without its struggle. On the day of the delivery, something shifted. It began like a normal morning. Ibrahim was home preparing for his next mission. Ajara was moving slowly around the house, feeling the quiet signs her body was giving her. But then suddenly the pain came fast and hard. She knew the baby was coming. But something was different. The contractions were stronger than she had remembered. Her energy, so calm throughout the pregnancy, began to fade. Her breathing was labored, her voice weaker. It wasn't panic, but it was clear this delivery would not be as easy as the months that came before. Ibrahim acted quickly. He called her parents, asking them to come, not just for emotional support, but for presence, for strength, because truthfully, even a captain needs help when the person he loves most is in pain. They rushed her to the hospital. And, for a moment, everything felt like it was spinning too fast. They were running low on money, treatments, children's care, daily needs. It had all taken its toll. Ibrahim had already spent so much for their first two children. Now faced with the unpredictability of a more difficult delivery, the weight was heavy on his shoulders. For months, the world has watched Captain Ibrahim Traoré with intense focus. His fearless speeches, his bold reforms, his revolutionary stance against neo-colonial control. He's been called many things, a warrior, a visionary, even a threat to the global order. But until now, few knew the man behind the mission. That changed when, during a nationally televised ceremony celebrating national unity, Traoré did something no one expected. As applause rang out for his leadership, he stepped to the side and quietly extended his hand. Out walked his wife, elegant, composed, and standing tall beside him. Behind her, 4 children, holding hands, eyes wide but brave. The crowd fell silent. This was no political stunt. This was a moment of truth. For the first time, the world saw the heartbeat behind the fighter. In a deeply emotional speech, Traoré shared what his family means to him. "You see a soldier," he said, "but I am also a husband and a father. Every risk I take knowing that if I fall, these are the ones who lose the most. I wanted you to see them today because they are my strength." He spoke of the nights he spent away, the threats they've received, the weight his wife carries in silence, and the courage his children show without even knowing the full extent of the danger. They didn't choose this path, but they walk it with me. And for that, I owe them the same loyalty I give to this country. The audience erupted in applause. Social media lit up with emotion. Images of his family standing proudly beside him went viral. People from all over Africa and beyond shared their admiration. Many said they had never felt more connected to a leader. Not because he showed power, but because he showed humanity. In a time when many leaders build walls between their public and personal lives, Traoré opened a window. And through it, the world saw a man whose mission is not driven by ego or ambition, but by love, duty, and the desire to leave a better world for the very children who stand beside him. Critics scrambled to find political meaning in the reveal, but the public saw something different, a reminder that behind every bold decision, every dangerous stand, there is a father's heart beating, a wife's prayer whispered, and a family's sacrifice unfolding in silence. This moment didn't make Traoré any less strong. It made him more real, more human, and more respected. Because true leadership isn't just about how loud you speak. It's about who you protect and why you keep fighting.